Alright. So picking up where I left off at. I was speaking on how the Jehovah thing, that is a the reason why you hear in the Old Testament God says he's a jealous God. Him saying that, what that means is, first and foremost, Jehovah is a representation of the physical reality. And this is why you hear things like, be in the world but not of it, don't be of the flesh, because the physical world is the distraction that everybody has to deal with. You know, you have monks. So when you see those people like in Tibet who do nothing but sit in the dark and deny themselves of worldly things, this is why they do that. They stay dealing with the inner self. Now that's not necessarily the path. Everybody has their own path. So if that's good for somebody, hey, more power to them. But even that is a imbalance. The 10% tithes, you think that 10% of your tithes that you pay is, you think that speaks to a actual financial thing, but actually in the occult world, which is the hidden world or the hidden understanding, that means that you have to pay a certain amount of attention to the physical world, although the object is to be more aware of the underworld or the spiritual world or the soul that dwells within you. You go through life. You came here to have physical experiences. You didn't come here to just dwell in the dark. You came here to have physical experiences so that you can extract spiritual understandings. A spiritual understanding from the whole physical experience. That's what you're supposed to be doing. So when he speaks of being a jealous God, that is a challenge. That's the physical world wanting all your attention, which we all know it's easy to give all your attention to the physical world. It's just like a woman that wants all your attention, and as soon as you start paying attention to other things, it gets jealous or whatever. That's the physical world. Having to pay bills, go out and do everything you have to do to sustain yourself in this physical existence, which is required. That's a distraction, but you have to deal with it because you have to make a living here, unless you just want to sit in a corner and rot away. Everybody have their own options. So the doing the things that you have to do to maintain yourself here, that's like a required distraction, so to speak. Then you have the other things, which is the entertainment aspect of life, which is another distraction. Which I'm not saying you're not supposed to entertain yourself. All these things but once you become of a spiritual, once you start looking at like your third eye, you can do all the physical things and still get spiritual experiences. You learn to start extracting. You learn to start allowing one thing to lead to another. So you might see something happen physically, and that might spark a spiritual revelation. That's how you want to operate within this physical world. because that's how you find out your own story. That's why when I broke down my story on YouTube, I was giving y'all all the experiences that was leading up to me finding out who I was, because that's how I found out. Going to jail and little things that haven't retrospected on my life, and seeing all these events happen, and then learning later on all this spiritual information, and seeing how my life paralleled with the spiritual information that I was learning, that brought me to the understanding that, hey man, you know, you like you're Neo around this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? You need to be looking for your own inner Neo. That's why when I told the story, I was telling the story as an example for you to start looking at certain things in your life and seeing how it lines up with all the spiritual information. But you have to have an understanding. That's why you have to go back to your original mind, or the mind you had before you were tricked out of who you were or how you originally thought, because you started thinking like the European who was last, or the Caucasian who was last, who came last. And that's not to put them down. It's just, that's just, it is what it is. You know, you're learning your spiritual, or you're getting your spirituality from people that you taught and who didn't really get the full understanding because they wasn't equipped with spiritual technology like you to even understand it enough to give it back to you the way it was supposed to be given to you, which was all a part of the plan. They wasn't really supposed to, you know, cause, and I'm not saying you do have some that that understand this shit thoroughly too. So it's not to just say that all of them don't understand this. It's just that the information that they're dealing with, a lot of them, or majority of them, can't grasp it the way you will be able to, or those that are of the understanding can, because, you know, they lack the melanin thing. Because the melanin is where all the information is at. You know, all the information, the light is hidden within the melanin. That's what melanin is. Melanin is information. When you are out there in the sun and the sun is causing your skin to darken, that is the melanin. That's information being pulled up from within you to the top of you. And that's what you're supposed to be doing when you're raising Kundalini energy up. So guess I go into the whole melanin thing. Now, when you look at the whole story about the children of Israel coming up out of Egypt, the story was given to you as if it was historical. In all actuality, this was a prophecy, so to speak. Hold on one second. This was the prophecy. You have what you have the mythological aspect of it, and then you have the eschatological the eschatological understanding of it. Now, eschatology is end time events, or things that are given to you within mythology, or a story told within a mythological form that is going to pass in the future. So, the historical aspect of some people being having to leave Egypt, that comes from you had these two different groups or priesthoods, and you had one that was a renegade priesthood, and they were forced up out of Egypt. This is way before the Bible and all that. Judaism, all the key elements and components of that doctrine is originally African. What happened was when this priesthood went up into and all the followers went up into out of Egypt and up into Mesopotamia, you know, Babylonia and Samaria. From my studies, what happened was they started to lose the original understanding of what these of the original doctrine. These were black people, and then you had the other races, the Caucasians or whatever, that came after them, who really started to blur the lines and get it wrong. And then then it came to a point where they took what was supposed to be or what was going to happen to black people in the future, and they started to insert themselves in those in that role. The children of Israel are the Americans who suffered over here doing the slavery thing and still suffering and whatnot. That we are the children of Israel. Israel is alludes to Isis, Ra, the sun god, and El, which is the star. That's the sun, moon, and the stars. And Is would be the mother of the moon. Ra would be the son, the father, and El would be the child, the star. This was not about a group of Caucasians who were in bondage in Egypt and had to be slaves, because we didn't have slaves. We had prisoners of war. Originally, when you went to war with your enemy, the ones that you captured became not slaves but servants, prisoners of war. And you could actually work your debt off and become a regular citizen again. It's just like jail to a certain degree. You could redeem yourself. And you did have that. So what ended up happening was you had that renegade priesthood, the priesthood of Jacob, or Yakub. You know, the J is a Johnny come lately letter. Yakub El. These people up in Mesopotamia and all Samaria and all that, they had Caucasian slaves. You'll read in Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams, where he speaks about how the Asians were slowly but surely infiltrating North Africa. But they came as, I guess you can call them colonizers at first. They came as traders. They came and did trade. They set up trade posts in North Africa. Now, from what I'm seeing is this. You had the ones that was really ruling in Mesopotamia and all that, in Babylonia and all that. You had them who were sending their people back into Africa, the Caucasian slaves that they had. the white people were the original slaves. That's what they were created for by this priesthood. And they set up trade posts all up in North Africa. And originally, they came as peaceful people, and just on some business things, and we looked at them as, because we understood that the land in Mesopotamia and all that, or Babylonia, Israel, or whatever, all that land was barren. Not all of it, but they came from a barren land. So it's like they came from poverty. So they was coming into Kemet because they knew, or coming to Africa because they knew it was abundant in resources. And the numbers started to pick up gradually. And then once they had enough Caucasian settlers, that's when the rulers over there in Asia was like, okay, we got enough of our people in there. Let's go ahead and put the full whammy bammy down. And that's when they came in and did the full takeover thing. And it was a family fight. It was black on black. And then you had the other races, Caucasians and the Arabs, all the stuff that you see, like Arabs and white people and all that. They became known as the Mamelukes. These were slaves of the original Arab people, which were black people, Arabs and Turks. So they came back in, and this is where you get the whole Pharaoh thing, because even the word Pharaoh means great house. That is a late term dealing with Kemet. I know first thing you think when you hear the word Pharaoh, you think Egypt, but that actually came from the king started to become known as a pharaoh based off of this invasion. I can't remember what the king was originally called in Egypt. Probably king, because Kingu is another was a deity, Kingu blood. They basically used these war slaves to infiltrate the land, and then once there was enough people concentrated in the land, they came in and they ruled for like a couple hundred years or something, and then eventually the original Kamites or the Kamites or whatnot defeated them or whatnot. And what ended up happening was all those that, because by this time this is like over hundreds of years spanning and whatnot. So what ended up happening was a whole lot of mixing of the blood had took place. So now you had the whites or the Asians or whatever who had mixed with the original people in Kemet. And even when the war popped off, you had a lot of people, you had a lot of Asians and white folks or whatever who were actually fighting for the original people of Kemet or the kings of Egypt or whatever. It was a split, So after the war, people had a choice. It was like, you're gonna either, because those that was coming in from Asia, they were coming in and trying to change the social and political situation in Egypt. So when the war was over and the Kamites who was originally on the throne or whatever got back into power, people had a choice. It was either you could abide by the original way of life here, or you have to leave. And because what you have to understand is that those people that was coming in as settlers, they were savage. Like I said, first they came in peacefully or whatever and was just traders, and then when they started actually as time started spanning, going on, or passing, they started to assault the original people of the land. They started to rob them, and you start having things that never really took place in Egypt because we were peaceful people. You know, they started assaulting and robbing and all these type of things. So that was like the closest thing you're gonna get to a historical situation where people were being ran up out of Africa with the whole Judaism thing attached to it, is that because that's what they was dealing with heavy over there in Asia or whatever. You know, the Judaism thing or whatnot. And so fast forward, the way that slavery became ensconced in black versus white after because it was an ongoing war. You know, the Camites got back on the throne and whatnot, and then they fell off again. Then they got it back, and then eventually you had the slaves, which was the Mamelukes, which were the Caucasian slaves of the Arab and Turk rulers who were over the invasion. The Mamelukes ended up having an uprising, and they overthrew their slave masters or whatnot. And once they did that, that is how the Caucasians really started to, or that was his initiation into power over everything. Like I said, read Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. I'll get into that. I double back to that in a and give y'all a read from there. Damn, that book is right here too. I read it. Yeah, I'll get to it though. But yeah, so that's, as far as in the past, that's the closest thing you're gonna get to a group of people being ran out of Egypt or whatever. And a lot of them had the option to stay if they chose to abide by the original rules. So now to break it down on the occult level, Egypt would be the physical body. This is the real deal. Understanding the mythological or the symbolical aspect of the story. Egypt is the physical body. Within your physical body holds the melanin. Within the melanin is light. Being called out of Egypt symbolizes the light within the melanin being the light being raised up out of the melanin, causing the melanin to light up like a Christmas tree within you. That's where your aura, your glow, and all that comes from. I'll give you an example. Like Moses. In this book right here, somewhere it speaks on how Moses, the name came from Mushe. Mu is the mother of the water. She is Shu, which is the air. The water would correspond to the spinal fluid, and then the air, of course, is the air, and the staff of Moses is the backbone of Osiris, or the spine. So show you how symbolism plays a part in all this. When they tell you that Moses struck the stone and drew water from it. Now, I'm going to break it down to you again. I said it before in one of my old videos, but I redo it here. I was reading from the broader files, and it was speaking on how the staff is symbolical of the spine. So with me knowing that, when I ran across the story of the stone being struck and drawing water, the stone is the pineal gland, the Benben stone. That is the pineal gland is what secretes the chemical hormone melatonin. Melatonin is what makes you spiritual and moral. It's morally and spiritually stimulating. So this is the reason why white people were capable of being more vicious than us, because their pineal glands are calcified or whatever. So, and it didn't produce melatonin, like I think it was a certain percentage. It says that the pineal gland within like 85% of black people works, and it's only 15% of white people that it works within, or something like that. But anyway, but what happens is the Kundalini energy, which is like your soul force, it sits at the bottom of the spine, the base of the spine, coiled up. That's what Kundalini means. It means coiled serpent. So as it sits at the base of your spine, it sits like in the form of a coiled snake on its belly. That's where you get the belly crawler thing from. See, when we call people snakes in a derogatory manner, that's people who are, because the snake itself is not a negative thing. That's something you have to be careful with. Just labeling everything, anything that is considered negative as a person that is quote unquote evil, a snake, because the snake is a symbol of wisdom. The snake is a symbol of divinity within itself. But it just depends on what type of snake, because when you call somebody a snake, when you call somebody a snake in the derogatory terms, you're speaking about a person who is whose Kundalini energy, which is your consciousness, in one aspect, is stuck in the root chakra. And if it's stuck in the root chakra is the chakra that deals with you as an individual, not you as a whole in connection with the rest of the planet, but just you as an individual, your personal ego. So when you look at everything as a personal matter, or the only thing that you're concerned with is your personal self, and you're cut off from the connection with everybody else, this is what makes it easy for you, or facilitates you to treat people a certain way, in a manner that you wouldn't want yourself treated in, or it allows you to be more quicker to step on somebody's toes to get what you want, or to wrong other people for selfish gains. Within the nation of gods and earth, we call that a savage in pursuit of happiness. You're savage in your pursuit of trying to get the things that you want personally. Because your Kundalini energy is sitting coiled at your base chakra. When you raise that up, this is where the whole thing about snakes having wings comes in at, because the wings symbolizes the uplifting or the raising, because that's what wings do. They allow birds to fly and soar through the sky. So when you see the snake with wings, that means that the snake is raised up, and it rises up, travels up the spine, and it travels up the spine where it strikes the pineal gland. When it strikes the pineal gland produces melatonin. Melatonin then is distributed throughout the whole body by the heart. The pineal gland and the heart have a connection. So when it says that Moses struck the stone and drew water from it, what it's basically saying is it's a metaphor for the Kundalini energy rising up the staff or the spine, striking the stone, which is the pineal gland, producing the water, which is the melatonin, which is distributed throughout your whole body. And when this happens, all your melanin within you lights up. That's why when you do it, you feel a warm tingling sensation over your whole body. That is the light illuminating within the melanin. The pharaoh, the great house, is your physical body that traps all of this light. And then, you have melanin that sits on the surface of your skin, and then you have neuromelanin, which is within you and runs up your spine. So the whole thing about coming up out of Egypt is the lower self, or the lower nature, or the war in Kemet. The physical war, the real war, was between the North and the South. It became between the North and the South because the North was conquered easily, because this is where the invaders came from. They came from Asia through the North. So their stronghold became North Kemet, which was represented by the red crown. The white crown was southern Kemet. Now in Kemet, what you have to understand is North Kemet was considered southern, or the lowest part of Egypt. It's North Egypt, but it's called Southern Kemet. And Southern Kemet, or Southern Egypt, is North Kemet. The North being the white crown, because the north of you would be the halo, the white halo. The red corresponds to the lower you, which is the root chakra. That's why the root chakra is red. Red is the lowest vibratory color on has the lowest vibratory rate on the color scale, known to the physical eyes, because it's colors and shit we can't even see. So the whole thing about the uniting of the Har Sam Tawi, or the Sambo, united of two worlds, on a occult level, that symbolizes you uniting the physical body with the spiritual self. That's the spiritual self, or the soul, waking up within the physical body, coming to life. You died when you came into this physical body. That's the first death. You die twice when you pass on and you don't come into an awareness of what your soul is. That's why the whole thing about God being something outside of you is a negative, because as long as you keep thinking that God is something in the sky, you're not dealing with the God within yourself. You're worshiping you're worshiping the physical world because you're worshiping something outside of you. You're supposed to be worshiping the God within you and raising that up and working that self-deification so you can start manifesting your spiritual powers here on this physical planet. I do this shit all the time. So when you raise up your Kundalini energy from the base chakra all the way up to the pineal gland, that's what you're doing. You're uniting the red with the white. So you see how the actual physical war mirrors the inner the inner situation you have going on, or the inner uniting of the two worlds, which is the, like I said, in the white corresponds to the crown chakra. That's where you get the 7 and the 1 in, the 7 chakras. Then you'll hear it in a lot of books and stuff that speak on the 8th chakra, but they'll speak on it like it's a vague thing. Well, it's vague because really the 8th chakra is really the 8th is really the halo, or the white halo that illuminates once you raise up your Kundalini energy. And that's the whole thing with the combining the two worlds, and the I will call my sons out of Egypt thing in the Bible. And then in another form, the calling of the sons out of Egypt is us in America. The people in America, black people in America, we are the lost children of Israel. We are the ones that was called up out of Egypt. Whether you want to look at it through the form of black people being brought over here from Africa to this land through slavery, which some was, but then actually the souls in America, because this is more, you gotta figure out, or you have to learn how to transcend the physical and start looking at things through a spiritual eye. That's why I tell people like Ancestry.com and all that shit, it's like whatever, because ultimately this shit is about the soul. So it don't matter if you 50% Cherokee and 20% Ireland, and I found out I was 30% Dublin or whatever that shit is. It's about what your soul's journey is. Because you can go get a soul reading, go get a past life reading, and find out who you were. Because you can go and find out, well, my grandma was part this and my grandfather was part that. And all that shit might point to African tribes, the Kenyan and Nigerian, blah, blah, blah. And you'll get a soul reading, and the last time you was on the planet, you was in Asia somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Because this is about the soul. The physical body is just, but see, one thing I'm starting to see about, even with that, what's going on is all those what's going on here is like the elect here in America are souls that made a contract or vow to do whatever was done when they was living their life in Kemet, but then said we're gonna come back in a future time and we're gonna be born in America, and we're gonna be born in America to redeem the whole race here in America. That's what I manifest when I tell you that I'm Christ and I'm Sambo and Har Sam Tawi and all that, because this is like the new Kemet, so to speak. That's why when you go to Washington D.C., everything is and we were over here. I hear shit about the Grand Canyons having all type of Egyptian artifacts in it, and this, that, and the third, and Akhenaten stellars being found in Oklahoma and shit like that. Because we were all over the planet. And that's why I tell people all the time, you know, you got to get off of this thing about thinking that Africa is the only place we've ever been. We were everywhere. Before slavery even popped off, we were everywhere. Before the white man even came on the scene, we were everywhere. You think we just started traveling the planet when the white man came along? That's what the word more doesn't mean black man. That's why they had to put black up more on it. They had to start making a distinction between, because more just meant, like I said, more alludes to water, the mer. That's why in Revelations they say his voice, they was talking about the beast or something like that, and they were saying that his voice was a murmur, watery. That's why this chakra is blue like the water. So mer or more alludes to water, which alludes to boats sailing the seven seas. The seven seas on one hand is the seven chakras. When your Kundalini energy raises up and passes through these seven chakras, it's sailing the seven seas. So when you hear the word more or mer, it just alludes to one who could sail in a later sense of the word. And there once was a time where the only people who were sailing was black people. So the only more that it could be was a black person. That's why more and black people became synonymous. So that's why they became hand in hand. It's like if the only people that can sail is black people, and the word more was used to refer to somebody who could sail the waters. When you said more, you automatically knew it was a black person, because you knew that white people still had to learn how to sail the seven seas or sail the waters yet. So the coming out of Egypt thing was being called out of Egypt, and at a later date finding your face or coming here as a soul in America to redeem the race. America is the head. Everything is connected and everything is one. But America is the head or the forerunners of this black resurrection. That's why they love us all over the planet. They say they got Arabians over there in Iraq who said they don't even deal with the Islam thing. They worship the black gods in America because they know their history. They knew what was to come. They know that the black gods in America are the ones who are going to resurrect and be the leading force. That's why we went through all this. Back to the Kanye West thing. We went through the slavery thing. On a spiritual level, we went through it so that experience and all this mixing of these different African tribes, and even these mixing of all these other races with us, makes us the melting pot race, just like America is the melting pot country. It all goes hand in hand. The black man is America. The Amaruka. The Amaru being the shining serpent, Kundalini energy. The Ka being the you have two Kas. You have the physical Ka, which is the body, and then you have the spiritual Ka, which is your spiritual body. The spiritual the spiritual part of you that takes the shape within the physical body, but it's an illuminated shape. It's not physical. It's a light body, so to speak. So the red, white, and the blue and the stars. Got 4th of July coming around next week. The red, white, and the blue. The red symbolizes, like I just told you, northern Egypt, southern Kemet. White, the halo or the 8th chakra, so to speak. The blue refers to the blue, the dark blue, the almost blackish blue. That corresponds to the melanin. And the stars correspond to the stars in the sky, or the melanin, the white light that you draw forth from up out of your melanin when you're getting your melanin popping. So when you're making your melanin pop, what you're doing is you're you're stimulating light. You stimulate light within the melanin. It's coming up out of the melanin. The light comes out of the darkness. Excuse me. So when you make your melanin pop, that's what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? That's why that's a good little phrase right there, melanin popping, because that's what you're doing. The melanin is popping about it. When you learn new things and you study, because education comes from the word educare. Educare means to draw out. Education is not what they give you in school, public school or whatever. And even public school has its place, because even though they teach wrong shit and whatever, it's still good to go there and get both sides of the story. So you can put all this shit together. You can see through the malarkey that they teach you, pick out and separate the. Like I said, if you're gonna send your kids to public school, that's one thing. There's nothing wrong with that, so to speak. But you just make sure you learn it at home, because at the end of the day, even no school that you send your kid to is more responsible for their education than the parents. That's your job first and foremost, primarily. It's your job. So, it don't really matter, if you homeschool them or not. Homeschooling is cool too. But if you homeschool them and they teaching the same shit that they teaching in school, then what's the purpose? You might as well just send them to public school. So you have to learn. You should be who your kids look up to for the most part. Rappers and entertainers, you only put so much blame on them, because at the end of the day, you can say, oh, they're influencing the kids to do this, and they're influencing the kids to do that. But it's your job to have a bigger influence, to where their influence is this big compared to yours. So when you see them imitating some shit you don't like on TV, or some rapper saying some shit, when you say, no, that ain't the way, blah, 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 this is just entertainment. Be entertained, but don't let this be your guide path through life. They'll say, well, Pop said it, or Mom said it, so I'm fucking with moms and pops before I let these motherfuckers lead me. That's pretty much what I did. Really, I led myself, because my pops didn't really have no time to teach me. My mom was always moving around, so I had to teach myself these things, you know what I'm saying? But I was influenced by the culture just like everybody else. I just had enough sense to navigate and be able to take the good and leave the bad, so to speak. So the red and the white, all that is Egyptian. The American flag, that's Egyptian. You know what I'm saying? It comes from Kamite. Comes from Kamite symbolism or whatever, of the lower world and the higher world being united. Then it goes to when the sun sets and goes beneath the earth, it goes beneath the earth to sit behind and behind the earth and beneath the equator, because the sun is tilted up. That's called the eater of the ass. Really, that's really a thing. That's not just some shit I'm putting out there. But the sun is sitting behind the planet, and you have a pole that sits in between, that sits in the center of the earth. This pole is the top of this pole is the Great Pyramid. So this is where you get your whole firework thing from, because what happens when you look at the natural symbolism, the sun at night is sitting behind the earth, and below it is shooting up the pole, the same way your Kundalini energy shoots up from the base of the spine behind you and up because your pole, your spine, the pole of the earth is just the spine of the earth. It has the chakra things and all that. So when the sun shoots up that pole, it comes out of the Great Pyramid. And then if you was to say you was to travel what you're supposed to say you were to travel up that pole, and let's just say you stopped and looked up through the pyramid, the whole of the pyramid, and you seen the stars in the sky. That's the firework thing. That's a Roman. That's the when you see them on 4th of July shooting the fireworks in the sky, and the fireworks shoot like a star, and then it busts and bursts into fragments of flames or fragments of fire or whatever. That comes from that symbolism. That comes from the sun. When the sun goes down, the stars come out. So it's like the sun goes down and explodes into many little stars, or many stars or whatever. And then you have the moon, which is the mother or whatever. The sun being the father. It's just like when you enter into the woman and then you bust off. The sun enters into the earth. When it sets or goes beneath the earth, it uses the magic wand, which is the pole of the earth, or the penis or the phallus, because that goes to that and the spine go hand in hand. It shoots its energy up through that pole, comes out of the Great Pyramids. This the symbolical way of looking at it. Comes out of the Great Pyramid the same way sperm would bust out everywhere. And then you have the egg or the moon, which is the feminine energy, and that gives birth to all the kids, which is the stars or whatnot. Same thing with the movie screen. The pole and the pyramid and the sun can be looked at as a projector. That's why the movie screen is called the silver screen. The silver screen. Silver is a moon color. When the sun goes beneath the earth and projects this energy through that pole, it's just like the camera projected onto the silver screen. That's why actors and stuff are called stars, because when the sun shoots through this pole and comes out that pyramid, it puts stars on the screen in the sky. And then of course you have the moon thing. Everything is everything. I didn't read that nowhere. All that is something that I came to the conclusion of just by reading all this information and looking at life through symbols, through signs and symbols, because that's how the universe communicates with you, through signs and symbols. The tree, the birds, the bees, and all that. That's how they communicate with you. Let me see where we can go with that. Back to the melanin thing. Oh yeah, I was talking about the Jews and whatever. That whole thing. Yeah. So, the real story about people being, cause see what they did with the quote unquote white Jews did were they wanted to capitalize. They were trying to put themselves. You see, that's the thing too. It's not about, when I say you want to see the parallels of your life with all this ancient information. It's not a thing that you force. You know what I'm saying? You don't force it or forge it. You allow things to happen naturally. That's why it's good to look back at your past before you even learn all this shit. Or look at the things that, or I just give it to you the way it happened for me. I started looking back at my life and all the things that happened before I knew any of this stuff, and seeing how all those things were me living out all the information that I would go on and learn without me even knowing. You know, now I might go do something. Now I'm saying you can't do something with the information in mind and still make something happen. I might see a shirt and say, let me get this green shirt, so I'm gonna be on my Osiris shit today. I'll do that, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, green became my favorite color, and it had nothing to do with us. I didn't even know who Osiris was when I chose it as my favorite color, and it just so happened to line up with the whole Osiris thing. You know what I'm saying? So But what they did was, they understood, at least the higher ups or whatever knew, that the real Jews were the black people in America who went through the 400 years of slavery. We were the ones in bondage. We know this. You know what I'm saying? That can be proved. You know, that's the history of America. America is the new Kemet. So the Pharaoh would be the system, so to speak. The white Caucasians and all that. That's the Pharaoh. That has not just black people, but everybody who ain't in that goddamn power bracket or was in that power bracket, because it's a new day. I always got to preface on that. Put emphasis on that. But we'll just speak as if things are still going the way people think they're going. The White House, that comes from Memphis in Egypt, the Great White House in Memphis. Like I said, the Pharaoh, it means the Great House. You know what I'm saying? That's why I say a Pharaoh, you can call yourself that shit, but if you don't understand the Jews within the house, then you're just a goddamn house. That ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? The Pharaoh, without understanding the underlying thing within the Pharaoh or within the Great House, you just a goddamn empty vessel, just an empty house. You know what I'm saying? The Pharaoh will be another version of Jehovah. Like I was saying, Jehovah is your physical body. Even the word in Hebrew, when you take the words, the Hebrew word Jehovah, and if you was to make a build, stack those words on top of each other from right to left, it will create a body. It'll look like a man, because that's one aspect of Jehovah corresponds to the physical body. You have to be the Christ that illuminates within the Jehovah or within the physical body. Just being the Pharaoh or just being the Jehovah, then you're just somebody that only thinks or understands life through physical means or whatever. So yeah, that whole thing with them is they're trying to capitalize off of your spiritual journey. Thinking, I don't, you know, and the more I learn about it, the crazier it is to me, because I'm like, these people really think that you can play with spiritual matters, like you can really, this is prophecy that niggas are the ones that's going to do this, that's going to fulfill. This is a prophecy that niggas was slated to fulfill, black people. And y'all actually think that you could do this, pull this one off? I'm like, it feel weird even explaining this shit to y'all, because I'm like, who in their right mind would think that they could pull this off? Because spiritual prophecy is spiritual prophecy. That shit is just, everything that's supposed to be will be. So even the whole thing with them in the concentration camps and going through what they did with the Germans or whatever, from what I hear, I haven't did an extensive research on it myself, but from what I hear is that, which makes sense, it all follows the line, is that they actually done that so they can have a claim to suffering. So when you read about people suffering in the Bible, you will equate it with them and their suffering over there with the concentration camps and all the things that they went through. When I actually heard that was a sacrifice. Like, they sacrificed their own just to be able to try to fit within the scheme of that story. You know what I'm saying? I think that's going to be one of my next studies right there too, the whole Jewish Germany thing. Because even see with the Hitler shit, even the Nazis, see, when you hear the word Nazi, the first thing you think is that's anti-black. That's the Nazis that you know of was just another version, or this is another example of them taking one of our basically put